Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to the show. Today I am hanging out with Lindsay Walden. Now, Lindsay is a talented maternity and newborn photographer based in Dallas-Fort Worth area. She's all about creating stunning one-of-a-kind images that tell every client's unique story while making the entire process feel effortless and enjoyable. Every session she does is thoughtfully designed with a focus on bringing her client's vision to life in a creative and elegant way. For over 10 years, Lindsay has been sharing her knowledge with other photographers, helping them build their dream studios and reach their financial goals by teaching them how to price, brand, and market to high-end luxury clients. She's been a keynote speaker at major events like Belly, Baby, and Beyond and the Maternity and Newborn Summit. And her work has been featured in publications around the world, including the Wall Street Journal, People Magazine South America, and more. I've been so excited to have this conversation with her. I think I've been following her for years. And so I'm so excited we can finally connect. So welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your journey into maternity and newborn photography and really what inspired you to specialize in this field.
Absolutely. So I grew up in a home where my mom had a photography studio. It was really more of a hobby for her, but it was so fun. I remember vividly being in the laundry room with her, the lights turned off, and then that red light she used it as a dark room.
Yeah.
And just watching the magic of an image appear on the paper, and the smells of the chemicals, all that is still a really vivid memory. So I've
Yeah.
always loved photography. I really started my photography journey as an underwater photographer, photographing fish, sharks. Like if they would pay me, I would have stayed in that genre for
Yeah.
forever because it was a lot of fun. It was when my daughter was born. She's turning 16. So this was about 16 years ago. I had a friend who said, "Hey, do you mind if I use your baby as a model for newborn pictures?" And I'd never heard of newborn photographs.
Right.
I had no idea what she was talking about. I hadn't seen any examples. It was really kind of invented around that time period, I want to say. So she had me bring my baby over. She'd never done it before. Those images still are just so precious to me. It's funny because this particular friend, that was the one and only newborn shoot she ever did. She decided that's not what she wanted to do. And I was so inspired. I
Yeah.
just remember thinking, this is something that I would really enjoy photographing. So I kind of started my photography journey at that point just by wanting to photograph my own children, got better equipment. That organically grew as friends saw those pictures, asked for me to take pictures of their kids, and then friends of friends, and then it grew from there. I really then niched back down to just focusing on newborn maternity for the most part, probably about 3 years into business when I started photographing weddings and doing whatever anybody wanted me to do. About the same time, I decided I wanted to be more luxury and decided that I wanted to niche down and really focus on the things that I loved most.
Love that. We've such a similar story because I started in 2010. My son will be 50, actually just turned 15. So he'll be
Okay.
16 next year. But at like the same time, like there was nobody doing newborn
Yeah.
photography. It was really like Tracy and Kelly and Baby is Art and like and Getty's. Like that was it.
Yeah.
And like I remember just combing the webs. I think this was even before Pinterest and just
Hmm.
trying to like find some inspiration on how to do it because we were all like flying blind back then.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
It's kind of embarrassing, honestly, to go back and look at
I
some of those
know.
pictures.
I'm
Those are
like,
like they're printed on CDs, so
yeah,
nobody
I
ever
know.
has to see them.
I see him. And it's funny because I look at them and I was like, oh, girl, you thought you could pose.
Yeah.
And I was like, that wasn't posing, Lovey. Like, you spent hours trying to make that, but that's not a pose.
Yeah, it's really embarrassing. I do share those images sometimes with my students because
Yeah,
that question always comes, how do I know when I'm good enough kind of
yeah,
thing? And I'll show like where I started, where I was at when I raised my prices, which
yep,
really wasn't all that
yeah.
much different, but I thought I was amazing.
I know.
Like, I learned how to crochet so I could make those silly
Same.
little owl hats. Oh my gosh. Oh, the memories.
Oh, I know. Seriously, the pictures. Oh, I have some of the worst hats, like made with that loom knitter, because
Yes.
like, oh yeah, I like they are so bad and so funny, and but I love them because we all have such
Right.
a similar journey when we
Yeah.
started, and I just love that so much.
I love where the industry has gone, how
Yes.
much better we've all gotten, but also the fact that we're not all the same anymore.
Yeah.
Like everybody's just different, and I
I
love that.
agree. And that there have become some standards when it comes to safety
Yes,
that were not
100%.
there in the beginning. Like I remember seeing images on Pinterest of babies in glass and like just things that you're
Yeah,
like, oh my gosh, that's so dangerous. Or even like the
absolutely.
whole suspended baby. Um, we've been through a lot with
Yeah,
this industry, and now it's finally like you're as a teacher and myself, like safety is like our number one priority with these little
absolutely.
ones. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
love
love
that.
that. So I want to talk about luxury experience because that is your jam and your sessions really are curated as journeys. So can you maybe
Mhm.
walk through your process, how you design a session for your clients?
Absolutely. So I always meet with my clients before I even book them. So I do what's considered a complimentary design consultation for every inquiry who they ultimately will get on the phone with me first to make sure that they are a good fit. And then I invite them to come in and meet with me in person. During that design consultation, I just learn as much as I can about them. I love getting to know my clients, what's important to them, the things they love, what their style is like. And then I use that as inspiration to design my sessions. So they're all unique. Sometimes I'll have clients that come in and say, I love everything that you do. Like we trust you, do what you want. But even then, I'll make sure that I'm finding out, well, what colors do you love? I get those occasional clients that are like, literally, I love everything. I'm like, okay, well, just tell me what you don't like. Because I want to make sure that what I'm creating is something I'm pretty sure, 98% sure that you're going to love every image I create no matter what. But I really want them to feel invested in the um, in the experience itself, so it feels more collaborative to them. Now, ultimately, I'm the artist, so I'm making all the design decisions, um, but they're trusting me with that. So I really use them as inspiration, whether it's a theme or if it's just a particular style that they really love. When I say that, I have my own aesthetic that I think I stay true to. So when I'm not switching my style from one to the other, I have a very distinct aesthetic that I will always stick to, which is really just classic and clean when it comes to editing styles. So that just makes it easier where then the sky's the limit, depending on maybe their profession or their culture. Um, we use that as inspiration. And then from whatever the things that they love, we'll pick colors that make sense for that they really like. Um, so it's a very collaborative journey. And it's just so much fun because it's different every time.
Yeah, I love that. Now, are you IPS? Are you do you
Mhm.
in-person sales? I love that. Awesome. So did they come back for
Yeah.
an ordering session later?
Yes.
Or do you do that
Yeah. All my
virtually?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. All my clients typically will come in person. I do get clients that come from out of state. If they're coming from more than like 2 hours away, I will offer to do it via Zoom. But even if they're an hour, 90 minutes, even if they're coming from out of state, I still offer the in-person reveal session and I explain to them why there are advantages to that of being there in person with me. So I've had clients who will fly back for that as well. But I will offer it as a Zoom consultation occasionally if it's a major hardship for them to be able to come back for that.
So as a luxury brand photographer, what would you say would be the most popular items that you're selling to clients currently?
Um, this is going to sound kind of weird, but digital images.
Yeah,
That's my bread and butter. That's what
yeah,
I create.
yeah.
So I really focus on selling the digital images. Um,
Awesome.
all of my clients will come away from a session with the digital images that they're picking out. And then those same images they pick out, I'll print for them either in an album or in
Nice.
a portfolio box. So those would be my top two other big sellers. I'd say albums are more popular than the boxes, but I like to offer both. And then beyond that, I offer all kinds of different wall art, the
Yeah.
classics, the more modern like metals and acrylics have been popular for wall art
Mhm.
pieces. But really, digital images. That's
Yeah,
what I primarily am selling, and that's where the majority of my income comes from.
yeah. I love that. And I love that you're pricing yourself in a way that feels good because there's
Yes.
been that whole history of like digital files being incredibly discounted or very, very
Yes.
inexpensive, and people being called student burners and all these different labels
Hmm.
that they have. So I love that you can be a luxury photographer with a luxury brand, but still being able to provide digital files. I love that.
Absolutely. A lot of people mistake in-person sales as selling product
Yeah.
or physical product.
Yeah.
I think that you can absolutely sell digital images, just do it in person.
Yeah.
And it will enhance your sales. It
Yeah.
will enhance the level of service you're providing your clients.
Hmm.
So I do love wall art. Like there is nothing better than seeing your images beautiful blown up in your client's home. But my model really emphasizes the digital images because that's what I created and that's
Yeah.
what matters the most to me.
Love that. Now, you focus on providing a luxury client experience. So, what would you say are the key elements that really define a luxury photography brand?
I think as a brand, I'm going to emphasize what I always emphasize first with my students. You cannot be a luxury brand with low prices.
Yeah.
So your pricing is part of your luxury brand. It's just very confusing to clients if you're trying to sell yourself as a luxury experience, but it's a 15-minute mini, because that really isn't luxurious to anybody.
No.
It's a lot of stress. Um, Being a luxury brand, you're focusing on the experience for your client and making sure that it's just seamless and easy. So
Yeah.
I go through and just really am mindful of what are potential pain points that a client might experience before, during, and after a session, and make sure that those are addressed in advance. And then have every conceivable thing that could potentially go wrong, that they might forget, all of those kinds of things, just have it ready. So it takes a lot of mindful brainstorming to make sure that I'm prepared so that when my clients um, arrive, that they feel well prepared because I've done that consultation with them. And then if they forget something, we probably have it and it's not going to be a big problem. And then we also provide so much so that it's just easy and fun for them. So really the goal is make it easy for them. The should be everything that they might be worried about as far as like their appearance. Like we offer hair and makeup. We have wardrobe for the whole family, basically, except for dads. So we just really try to make it so fun and easy so moms don't feel stressed out about it.
So, a lot of the times we hear from our students, my clients will not pay that. And they
Mm.
want to be a luxury brand, but they're stuck at this sort of spot where they're really struggling to get clients that will pay the rates that they need to make to have a sustainable or profitable business. So they're in this kind of just funny spot where they don't have any clients, but they have this desire to be this luxury brand. So, with your coaching clients, what would you suggest in this scenario?
Well, you kind of said two different things. If they say my clients won't pay that, that means that they already have some clients, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
here's the thing, when I switched my pricing, I went from charging $250 and they got a CD.
Yep.
It's really cute with like a
Yep.
sticker on it,
Yep.
of all of their edited images. And overnight, I switched to charging $250 for just a booking fee, and then my collections were starting over $1,000.
Yep.
So literally over a night, like changed my pricing drastically. I lost every client that I had at
Yep.
that 250 rate. Not one of them saw the value in going up to the $1,000 rate. But my business soared. And now this was probably unique to me in that I was one of probably only if any, I only knew of a couple other newborn photographers in my area that were going
Yep.
luxury at the time that I did. So
Yep.
being first in your area is like really, really nice because I didn't even have to market. It was just people inquired, they heard the price, and they were like, yes, we want to book with
Yep.
you. I had a really great experience with one of the first people who booked with me, came in for her consultation. We went over the pricing. My top collection at the time, I think, was 3,200. She told me, oh yeah, we'll probably get that collection. And I remember telling her, oh yeah, that one's really popular. Like I literally had never had a client come in for a reveal session yet. And before she left, she gives me a hug and she says, I knew you'd be good because you're expensive. And it was hard for me because in that moment I was like, I'm like not any better than I was the week
Yeah.
before when I was only 250. But that psychology of my pricing
Mm.
really had an impact on who would book with me.
Yeah.
So a lot of people say, well, I struggle to book clients at these prices. How will I book them at higher
Hmm.
prices? And it could be that you're struggling to book them because you're too low. You
Yeah.
are not attracting the luxury client. They're saying no. You assume they're saying no because you think it's an issue with price, and
Yeah.
it is. It's that you're
Yeah.
too low.
Yeah.
So that is a really hard mindset to change.
Hmm.
It's still a struggle. Every once in a while when things, maybe aren't as busy as I want them to be, I'm like, maybe I should lower my prices. And I've just trained myself, no, anytime I
No.
feel that, I probably need to raise, if
Yeah.
anything, or I just need to spend more time on marketing.
Yeah.
So it does require more marketing. You can't just now that I have so much more competition, which I'm happy to report that most of my closest friends in the area, in the DFW area, are my competition or
Yeah.
my students that I've
Yeah.
trained that are in the area. And I love that. Like we've elevated the market so much, and found that there are so many people that are looking for that luxury experience, especially for newborns,
Yeah.
because they really want to feel taken care of in that moment in their life.
I love that. It's so true. And I think I love that you embrace the community over competition because I think that is so important. I think it was funny because I remember in the beginning days of starting out as a photographer, it wasn't overly welcoming. And that was one
Mm,
thing that really bothered me that and so that's always what I've tried to do when I've got
yeah,
local students is that it's how many babies do I want? And how many babies are born in the city? Like there's enough
right.
babies for everybody. Like everybody can win
Absolutely.
here. So let's just stop stressing out about what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. If I just focus on what I'm doing,
Hmm.
I do love like getting together with my photographer friends and having lunch and like, what have you been up to? And hearing like the things that they're doing. But the one other thing is, as a luxury brand, we are very much our brand. Like,
Yep.
that's the unique thing about being a business that is centered on an individual,
Yeah.
is that our uniqueness makes our business unique.
Yeah.
So whether it's small differences in our styles, small differences in the way that we approach and treat our clients, none of us is going to be the same. And so one client might be more drawn to a particular photographer than they would be another. And I just love that about it.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah. I do too. All right. So, how do you tailor each session to match the unique story and vision of your clients?
Um, so I have a workflow that I pretty much capture, to me, the same images for every client, in
Yeah.
that I'm getting particular angles of every setup. I'm getting macro shots from particular setups. I'm doing prop shots, and then I'm going to the beanbag and getting texture and monochromatic images. Um, so every session is the same, but every session is different. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
So I have this a very similar workflow for every session, but it's also customized to the client, to the colors that they're picking out, the particular themes that they're picking out. It really looks different every time. And
Yeah.
then as I have been doing this, especially doing in-person sales, it's helped me to learn what sells well,
Yeah.
and to learn what to focus on.
Yeah.
So there was a time where I was really stressing because I was not good at like taco
Yeah.
pose and froggy. I'm like hit or miss and bum up. Sometimes it looks great. Other times I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I just really got down on myself. But what's interesting is my clients really will only buy one of those poses, maybe two. That's not what they're coming to me for. They love the more designed prop shots, and they love the family images.
Yeah.
So doing in-person sales really helped me to understand that those family images and the mom shots in particular,
Yeah.
and sibling images, if
Yeah.
I emphasize those and find ways to make those unique and beautiful, I'm gonna make a lot more money. Which
Yeah.
ultimately, like that's
Yeah.
what we want, right?
Exactly. When I started adding awake baby images with those like the
Mm-hmm.
funny when you get the hilarious images and like make it into a
Yeah.
little like collage or that was like game changer because I used to
Right.
always just hand the baby back and I'd wait for baby to fall asleep. But then when I started shooting those in between moments and like the yawns and all those things,
Mm-hmm.
like those are the ones my clients always post and that they
Oh,
love,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's eyes open and smiles. They'll
Yeah.
buy every single time.
Oh yes. Smiles. Oh gosh.
Love it.
I love it. So, how do you maintain creativity in sessions when you do have a workflow?
Um, I take my time with
Yeah.
each. So I have a rule about setup. We always set up the day before.
Yeah.
So I do my newborn sessions typically in the morning, and we'll set up sometimes 24 hours in advance.
Yeah.
I'll have my assistant there so that I can be like, oh, grab me, all
Mm-hmm.
the blue things in this tonal range. And we're like comparing and trying to figure out. And um, so I have my notes from the design consultation with my client. Sometimes I'm texting them like, not necessarily to get their okays. They're not picking out specific props and things like that or outfits. I pick all of that. But maybe they're bringing something from home. They always they're required to send me a picture if they're bringing something from home for me to use, and I want to like reference that. So really, it's just kind of like playtime where I think my assistant and I we really enjoy that process of getting the different things out that we think we might use. We make a giant mess as we like, or like, we're going to use this and then we're throwing stuff over in the corner. And then she puts it all away before the actual session. But yeah, it's just really just a fun, creative process. It depends on what we're doing, what the client asks. So it just feels different and fun every time. Um, Again, like I have a workflow where we always photograph baby first because moms are almost always in hair and makeup while I'm photographing baby. So that's really nice and convenient. It's also then makes it a surprise when they see their images, which I love. Um, but then we do the family images, sibling images last, so the siblings don't even have to be there until the very end. Um, so yeah, it's hard to describe the process because I feel like it's different every time. It depends on the client. It depends on what we're doing. If they at their consult, 2-3 months before their due date, let me know. Like I had clients, they both work for Southwest Airlines, so I had time to reach out to a vendor and have her make me a cute little Southwest Airlines outfit. So if I know far enough in advance, I'll have things custom made, even if I know I'm only going to use it once. That's totally fine. It's worked into my cost of doing business that I might have to buy something specific for a session. And that personalization, down to like the baby had a little name tag with his name on it. Like parents absolutely love it. And they're willing to invest for that kind of level of detail and care in their images.
I love that. I think a lot of beginning photographers, and even those that have been at it a few years, they forget about the building the stuff you may need to purchase or want to purchase into your
Mm-hmm.
cost of doing business. And it's
Mm-hmm.
either spending all that money and overspending and not being profitable,
Right.
and not paying yourself, and then having this huge, massive pile of things that you probably rarely use. Um, it's the spending in the industry can be a little tricky. Do you have any
Right.
advice on that?
Um, this really boils down to your goals for your business, the type of studio you want to be. Um, I had a client say this once to me, and it just hit me that this is when I talk about my ideal client and myself, it is the epitome of who we are. She said, this was when she was trying to pick out gowns for her maternity session and she couldn't narrow them down. She's like, Lindsay, I think I'm less of an or person and more of an and person. That is my woman. So I think that like so long as you are clear, like if you want to be a prop heavy custom design type photographer, you're going to have to have a big budget. Like we'll spend between 20 to 40 grand a year
Yeah,
on gowns, on props and things like that. And I have a ton. So it's not like I need to be going out and buying all new things every year. It's just that I want that ability to one, stay on top of trends that I
yeah,
think are fun, especially gowns, and two, be able to customize.
yeah,
Not every photographer needs to do that. I have some of my favorite friends who are newborn photographers do very simple, all
yeah,
white. They maybe have 5, 6 outfits they use repeatedly. I have literally hundreds of them.
yeah,
And some of them I may not use in a year, but I'll use them maybe in a couple years. I don't know. So
yeah,
I have a really hard time letting go of things. So long as it is incorporated into your cost of doing business,
yeah,
it's fine. You
yeah,
can spend as much money as you want, so long as you make sure you're being profitable. Now, if I'm slower, I'm obviously not going out and spending 10 grand on props in a month.
yeah,
But over time, like that average, I know how much I want to spend.
yeah.
So that is reflected in my pricing.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's when you realize that you're actually running a business and it's not these
Yes.
purchases that you're hiding from your husband. Because that's something that we hear all the time in social media groups. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not, it's a hobby
It's not
business.
really, I mean,
Yeah.
it literally is not his business. Like,
Yeah.
I love my husband.
Yeah.
Um, he's not like a partner in my business or anything because he has no interest. He has his own stuff that he does. And so long as I'm bringing home a paycheck,
Yeah.
he will never question
Yeah. That's
why I
good.
have so many boxes because I do have everything delivered to our house because it's
Yeah.
just easier because Amazon comes in the middle of the night.
Oh
It's
no.
amazing. So I have everything delivered to our home, and he's always like, "Wow, that's a lot of boxes." I'm like, "I know, right?"
Yeah.
It's so
It
long
isn't.
he really doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter so long as you're profitable, and that's really sitting down and making sure that your cost of doing business is done.
Yeah. Love that. All right. So that actually brings me to pricing and talking about maybe any mistakes you might see photographers when it comes to making pricing decisions for their work.
Um, hmm. I think that probably two things. One is undervaluing your time.
Yeah.
A lot of photographers say they're wanting to move into in-person sales. They will focus on, okay, I'm going to figure out how much it costs me to sell an album or a print, and then just mark that up by a certain amount. And they're not taking into account, one, you really have to start with your cost of doing business and see what do I need to be averaging in order to meet my goals and be able to sustain a profitable business. Um, and then based on that cost of doing business, then create pricing that really is strategic and that reflects your costs, but also includes your time. So,
Yeah.
like a small mistake that I see a lot of people doing is they're using the same markup for an album as they would for a canvas.
Yeah.
An album has multiple images. So it really needs to reflect the time you take to create all of those images versus just one image. So that's a small pricing thing. The other thing that I would say is if you're looking to be in the luxury market, there is this in between ground between what I call the commodity market and the
Mhm.
luxury market um, that a lot of photographers will try to straddle for a
Yeah.
time where they want to be. Um, I really think it's just money blocks.
Yeah.
And can I tell
100%.
you, you don't find men in that zone. It, I mean, I haven't. Yeah, I've
Mhm.
talked to a lot of men in the industry and have come to me for advice on things, but they don't have the same money blocks that women do. And I find it really interesting.
It is
That's
fascinating.
probably another topic for a whole
Yeah.
podcast.
Totally.
um, but when when we are looking at pricing, I totally lost my train of thought there. Sorry.
Okay. It's all good. It was mistakes in pricing.
Right. I get on a soapbox and then I'm like, wait, what were we talking about?
Oh, me too. And I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
even, yeah, I'm like, that's my ADHD. It's a fine.
Yeah. It's my favorite thing to talk about. Bottom line though is our pricing really needs to be a reflection of our costs and
Yeah.
our goals. And we need to be valuing our time. And our time includes like digital images. Can I tell you how triggering it is for me to hear the term just digitals?
Yeah.
Or like a client inquires, how much is it for just digitals?
Just
Why
digitals.
do
Yeah.
they say that? We taught them to say that.
Yeah.
That came from us because we were saying, well, it's just this much for just digitals. I did it too when I was on
Yep.
the commodity market end of things. So really valuing those digital images and your time is so important. Being in that middle zone, oh, that's what we were talking about. Being
Yeah.
in that middle zone is a really hard place to be. So my advice for anyone who's wanting to be in the luxury market is don't try to be in the mid market. Like it's not mid luxury, you're just mid market,
Yeah.
which means you're confusing potential luxury clients who are less price sensitive. So if they see a photographer whose pricing starts at say 900 versus a photographer whose pricing starts at 2900,
Yeah.
they're going to assume the $2,900 photographer is better, even if
Yeah.
they're not. Because
Yeah.
I'll admit, like when I first made that big jump into doing in-person sales and being in the luxury market, my work was terrible, really not good. And I'll never forget in a photography forum, photographers attacking me for my
Yeah.
pricing and telling me you cannot be that price that high because such and such amazing photographer, this is how much
Hmm.
she charges. and
Yeah.
she's a lot better than you. And you know what? They were right that she was so much better than me. She still is. Oh, I've got taught with this other photographer and she's amazing and her work is just phenomenal. But my pricing is priced based on my cost of doing business, my goals, and I've been successful. I've since raised my pricing significantly from those
Yeah.
early days of in-person sales because I'm able to. The
Yeah.
market lets me.
Yeah.
So, sorry, down off
I
my
love that.
soapbox.
I love that. I think that's so important because I do find like the middle zone. I stayed in the middle zone for ages
Yeah,
and I overspent. I didn't run a profitable business and I was really embarrassed about it.
yeah.
And, like I was fully booked, overbooked,
Mm,
but it still wasn't working. And so
right.
finally, I think it was about 2020, I just had to like put in the brakes on everything and I need to regroup here. If
Yeah,
I'm going to reopen, it has to be in a profitable way.
yeah. It's
So,
just a really hard place to be
yeah,
because marketing is difficult because do you market the way you would to a luxury client or do you market the way you would to a commodity client? You're just
right?
confusing things.
Yeah,
You can still get clients. It's just hard because you'll have clients who expect a luxury experience, but you can't really afford to give them that experience.
exactly. Right.
So, yeah,
So
it's
that's
difficult.
that's the hard part. So what in what ways is marketing to a luxury client different than marketing to a commodity client?
Luxury clients, you don't focus on price at
Yeah,
all. So, like if you go into a really high-end jeweler, say, they're not going to have prices out.
yeah,
You'll come in and they'll say, they'll find out what your need is. How can they fill that need? Who are you shopping for? What is it that you're looking for? And then they show you some options. You pick out what you love, and no price is even talked about
yeah.
oftentimes. Um, so you're not focusing on pricing. So you're not talking about discounts. You're focused on showing them the experience
Mm,
and you're focused on alleviating pain points.
yeah,
So showing like that I offer hair and makeup, that I offer wardrobe, that, I'm being mindful about what is it that she could be worried about that I want to
mm,
address up front. Those kind of things are what a luxury client is looking for.
yeah. I love that. I love that. All right, let me see here. I want to grab another. Okay, here's a good one. So, what is something you wish more photographers knew before diving into the luxury photography space?
Hmm. Um, I think probably the most important thing is what I just was talking about is don't try to start out in the middle
Mm,
where you're like I know I'm really inexpensive so I'm going to raise my pricing by like a few hundred. That puts you in that mid-level market and there I have more students coming to me that are in that mid-level market. They're coming to me because they're struggling.
yeah,
They're like I get occasional really good sales but I'm not getting enough to make the business really sustainable. And because they're getting those every once in a while, thousand to two,
yeah,
$3,000 sales, they know it's possible.
yeah,
And I feel like my job as a mentor really is just okay, like we're gonna add a zero to
yeah,
everything, sometimes two zeros to everything, and hold your hand through this
yeah,
process. That's like the biggest, hardest part.
yeah.
Is just you have to really take that leap over into the luxury market completely and not try to just slow your way into it. It's really hard if you try to do it that way.
So, because then you often find those that have had a business with lower end clients, the 250, $300 range, they lose all those and then they're
Mhm.
stuck in this spot where they're not quite booking those clients yet, and so they
Right.
panic.
Yeah.
So when they're in that panic, how do you talk them off the ledge?
Yeah. They're in this panic mode where they're like, well, I'm going to have to go back to my pricing before, which wasn't working. They weren't
Yeah,
sustainable. They were going to have to quit. So I'm like, why would you go back to something that you were going to quit from
yeah,
anyways? Why don't you just try? Like you've seen, you have these clients that are willing to spend maybe more. Why don't you try moving yourself up into that luxury market? And what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
yeah,
Like, and they always say, like, well, nobody will book. And
yeah.
what's really interesting is, like, when I've made changes in my pricing from those first early stage of IPS, where I was starting over 1,000, to now, like, my minimum clients can't come in and get away without spending 3,500. That's at a minimum. And
Yeah.
very rarely does someone spend that little.
Yeah.
Um, I have clients that have stayed with me. Like the client I told you about at the beginning that told me like I knew you'd be good
Mhm.
because you're expensive. I just did their
Mhm.
family pictures again like a year ago.
I
So
love
I've made
that.
significant price jumps of thousands of dollars in my collections while giving them even less than I was before.
Yeah.
Those clients will still come back to me because they're luxury clients. Whereas you make $100 raise in pricing when you're in the few $100 range, you'll lose clients.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting kind of dichotomy of the difference between a luxury client and a commodity client. Really, you just have to. The best thing is if you have either a business coach, mentor, or a like a mastermind group of other people
Mhm.
who are sitting where you want to be sitting, is what I always say. Like, don't take advice from people who aren't sitting where you want to sit. Because I got plenty of advice from people who I respected and loved that told me there's no way this is going to work. You're not going to find people who will spend that much money. Um, and I love one of those was my dad, who is a very successful businessman, told me there's no way people are going to spend that much money for just pictures. And my favorite thing over many years was to call him every time I had my next biggest sale and let him know what it was. And he like cried with me. He was so happy. He told me years later, like, it sounds like the market's telling you to raise your prices again, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Like, he eventually got on board. Um, but yeah, it's really, I empathize
Yeah.
with photographers who are in that space because it's hard, especially if you are dependent upon your income to support your family. It's a
Mhm.
scary place to be.
Yeah.
I feel fortunate to have a spouse where his income is good.
Yeah.
Um, when my income surpassed his, that was even better.
Yeah.
And I just let people know, like, it's possible. It's
Yep.
absolutely possible where you can go from a space of just feeling really insecure to like, why did I not make this decision sooner?
I love it. I think there is a lot of fear too of when you have a luxury client, they're going to be a pain in the ass,
Mm,
right? And I often hear that in our groups. And so, can
yeah.
you talk on that a little bit? That maybe
Yeah.
that's not a fear, or maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah. It's funny because we have a lot of um, fears that we just make up in our head. We
Yeah.
have no evidence of it. We just make it up in our head. And that is one where the biggest pains in my ass clients were the ones that were when I was only charging 250.
Yeah.
Luxury
100%.
clients, 99% are the most lovely. They trust me. I'm the artist. So they're trusting me with things. They're not like, no, nobody's ever asked me for raw images since I
Yeah.
became a luxury photographer, except for like commercial type things.
Yeah.
Um, it's they're wonderful. You'll always have those people who maybe want more retouching than your average client, who maybe have extra requests that my typical client might not ask for. But here's the thing, I am priced appropriately for that level of service. So I don't mind.
Yeah. Right. And
I
you're
think it's
getting paid.
great.
It's when you're
Yeah.
getting paid for it, the resentment goes away.
Exactly. You will
Right.
never see me complain about a client. I've had those occasional clients that just that our personalities didn't vibe.
Yep.
Um, but like that's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't call them like difficult or it was just different personalities, and that's totally fine. I would say 99% of my clients, like I would be best friends with them. They're
Yep.
amazing and they value what I do, which makes me love them even more.
100%. 100%. I love that. All right. So you ready for our lightning round? It's not
All
really
right, sounds good.
lightning, it's like slight lightning.
Okay, good, good. I'm kind of old, so I don't know how fast I can be.
I'm like,
We'll
I'm like,
try.
these are questions. These are just other
Okay,
questions.
got it.
Would you rather have unlimited sushi or unlimited tacos?
Tacos
Oh, love it.
every time with guacamole and queso.
Yeah. First thing you'd buy if you won the lottery?
An island?
Yeah.
We'd have a big old party. It would be super fun.
I love it. Something on your bucket list.
Mm. My husband and I are both scuba divers. There's a resort that we want to go to called Wakatobi. It is on my bucket list. We will get there someday.
I
It'll be
love that.
amazing.
That's
It
awesome.
also is an island. Maybe I'd buy Wakatobi if I won the
Oh,
lottery. There
oh.
we go.
Favorite childhood memory?
Ooh. Hmm. I don't know why this popped into my head, but as a kid, we would get on, like, at a big family, we'd get on either side of my parents' bed and we would play balloon volleyball over the bed. It was just like you had to keep it from landing
Yeah.
on the floor, and we would just laugh so hard. I played that with my kids growing up. It was super fun.
I love that. Favorite season of the year?
Summer. I
Mm-hmm.
love the beach.
First concert you ever went to?
Lollapalooza when I was 16, and wow.
Oh, wow.
I was very naive. We didn't stay for super long. There was a
Yeah.
lot of stuff going on that I
Oh,
was like,
yes.
"Oh." Yeah, that was shocking. Mm.
That's funny. Favorite TV show growing up?
We didn't watch a ton of TV when I was a kid, but I do remember, this is gonna date me. I loved He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Okay,
Yes.
good. It was the
Yes.
best. And what was the girl one? She-Ra.
She-Ra, Princess of
Yes.
Power.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah,
Oh my
I would play
gosh.
with my brother had the He-Man and I would make them the Barbie's boyfriends.
Yes. You're like,
They're like
that's
big
so
muscle guys.
funny. Right? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, I loved
Um,
that show.
so good. Ice cream cone in a cup or a cone?
A cup. I'm weird. I don't know why.
I like cups too. I'm the same.
Yeah.
Do you collect anything?
I have a bunch of vintage cameras. I love those. They're really cool. I actually use them all the time in photo shoots. They're
Yeah,
really fun.
that's fun. I like that. My grandpa actually, when he passed, he gave me all his cameras.
No, that's so
So I have a
fun.
bunch too. And they're from
Yeah,
all over the years.
my mom had a couple of Hasselblad film cameras that she gave me, and they're awesome. I just have no idea how to use them. Like,
Yeah.
it's so awful.
I love it.
Mm.
What makes your soul light up?
Mm. Probably my family.
Yeah.
There's just nothing that I love more than my family. And being creative. I think this job,
Mhm.
having the opportunity to get up in the mornings, come in and be creative, and also being successful. Like there's something that, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's my soul that's lighting up when I have a really big sale, but something feels really good.
It's that validation. Like,
Yes.
this,
Yeah.
yes.
And
Yeah.
I would relate it back to my family of knowing like, this is helping support my family.
Yeah.
It's making my children's lives better. It's making their futures brighter. That
Yeah.
is so important to me.
I love that. What has been the best piece of business advice you've ever been given?
Hmm. Gosh, I remember years ago being at a conference and Julia Kelleher was
Yeah.
speaking. And she said something like, the market doesn't care. I'm pretty sure she used some expletives in there that I won't
Hmm.
use. She's awesome. And it was a really eye-opening moment for me. What she meant was like individuals obviously care. Like I would say, like my clients, like a lot of them like really know me well. They know my kids' names, especially clients that have been coming to me for years. Like they'll ask after my family. As individuals, we care about each other, but as a market, as consumers, people don't really care. Like they just want what they want.
Yeah.
So sometimes we make the mistake of kind of mixing business with personal in the sense of like
Mhm.
when we're doing things like on social media where we'll it's okay to be vulnerable and talk about things, but I don't know. Like I see a lot of photographers where they're complaining about a client who it's like, well, my kid was sick. And so I told my client my kid's sick and it's like and the client was so rude about it, like they don't care. And it's like, well, yeah, because they just want what they want.
Yeah.
Um, Understanding that helps me to not feel offended or annoyed. Like if I get a text late at night from a client, I just ignore it until the
Yeah.
morning. I'm not going to be all beat up about it. Like, but I'll answer during business hours and very professionally. And I don't know. So that really helped me to also, when it comes to my pricing, recognize like I'm so like torn up about where I'm going to price because it's really hard to put value on something that comes from your soul, like
Mm.
your creativity. Um, but the market cares about what it cares about. It cares about quality. It cares about the experience when we're talking about a luxury client, and the price doesn't matter as much. So I need to stop focusing on that. So that was just really good advice. I love that.
Really good advice. I like that. What advice do you have for someone just starting out?
Hmm. Um, I think I said it earlier. Don't listen to people who aren't sitting where you want to sit. I mean, that's not to
Mm,
say that you can't have conversations with other people, but if you're looking for really good advice,
yeah,
I would talk to people who have what you want. I
yeah.
remember one student who literally reached out to me, inquired about mentoring, and told me over the phone, like, I want what you have.
Mm,
And I saw that passion in her, like that desire to build something similar to what I had. And she's absolutely succeeded and probably surpassed me, I think, in many ways. Um, that desire to have what someone else has, not in a um like I'm envying,
yeah,
but a I know if you're capable of doing that, I should
yeah,
be able to do it kind of
yeah,
thing. So what can I learn from you?
yeah,
Kind of attitude. That has really, I think, helped a lot of my students, especially when I'm mentoring a student who is relatively new, who recognizes that they don't want to start off the way many of us did, which is starting off really cheap. They're like, I
yeah,
want to come in offering a luxury experience. I recognize I'm newer. Is it possible? And it
yeah,
absolutely is.
yep,
Even for a newer
100%.
photographer, you'll get a lot better a lot quicker because you can afford to.
Mm-hmm.
So you have like a competitive advantage over other newer photographers who are just not
Yeah,
being profitable in the beginning. So
exactly. I love that. So you're actually coming to teach with us for the online newborn retreat in January. So can you share a little bit what you're going to be instructing on?
I think a lot more about what I've been talking about today. My subject is really the luxury experience for newborn photography. I'll go through what my workflow looks like for a newborn session. And really, when I'm talking about my workflow, it's not so much like I'm not going to be showing posing or anything like that. That you can find in a lot of sources. I'm going to be talking about why I do the things I do and how I make money. So everything in my workflow is designed to it's very efficiently done in a way that it maximizes the profit, basically. So I'm going to talk about how I do that, why I focus on the things that I focus on, and how that ultimately helps me to maximize my potential sales. I'll talk a little bit about sales and pricing, not super in depth, but a little bit about that. It should be a lot of fun because obviously I'm really passionate about the topic.
Well, we are so excited to have you join us.
Thank you. I'm excited to join.
So, where can our listeners learn more from you?
Absolutely. So I have a couple resources. I do have an in-person workshop coming up in February. This is for, I'd say, not a brand new photographer. There are 3 days to the workshop, and the way my workshop runs is a little bit different than many. First day and the second day, you can come just for one day. There's specific topics that we're teaching. The first day is really the art side, probably a lot of what I'm going to be talking about in this particular class, the workflow and why I do things the way I do. But they'll also see a demo of how I do a newborn shoot as well as a maternity shoot. Day two is just really in depth on the business side. We go over your pricing, not just pricing in general, but pricing for each individual. We go over marketing to the luxury client, which is probably a
Huge.
couple hours worth of our time. And then day three is for a very small mastermind group that will continue to meet regularly after the workshop. So students have the option to sign up for 1 day, 2 days, or all 3 days if they want. It's really fun and it's a very small workshop. I only offer it usually every other year. Um, and then I also have a Facebook group. The Facebook group name is, I wrote it down because I always forget what it's called. It's called the Luxury Photography Group. The luxury, the luxury, oh my gosh, luxury photography for professional photographers. It's a mouthful. It's a free resource on Facebook. Anybody's welcome to join it. I answer questions in there, but I don't regularly post. I'll be upfront. I am a photographer first. I love educating. It's something I'm really passionate about. But my income is 95% going, if not more, from my clients, not from photographers. So I am not actively necessarily promoting my teaching very often, although I'm super excited to be doing this retreat. But I feel like I can come from a more organic place when I can be, or authentic place when I can say that most of my income does come from clients and not from teaching. So that Facebook group is a great resource if you just have questions. When I'm available, I'll pop in there. And then a lot of my former students are in there, and they're fabulous at answering questions as well.
I love that. That's great. Well, I love to end my interviews just with this last question. And it is, what are you currently curious about or artistically curious about?
Hmm. Um, I've been really interested for a while in learning more about gels.
Ooh,
I
yeah.
have some that I've used in my studio. I think they're really fun for editorial looks. And it's something that I'm curious about using underwater because I do underwater maternity. I feel like it would be something interesting. I use strobes sometimes underwater, but it's so different from using in studio, so it's been tricky. So it's
Yeah.
one of those things that like I don't have enough practice at it. I'd like to have more practice at it. I just need to schedule some time to work on it.
I love that. That's so cool. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. It's been fun.
Oh, my beautiful friends, I hope you have loved this conversation just as much as I have. I'm sending you so much of my light and my love today and every single day. We will see you next time.